Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and I'm coming with the official Washington Commanders versus Eagles preview, a full breakdown on how the Commanders can beat the Eagles this Sunday. For those of y'all who may not know, we play the Eagles this upcoming Sunday, September 25th at 1 p.m. in Landover, Maryland. So it's a home game at FedEx Field. This is going to be Carson Wentz's first game against the Eagles since they traded him away because he didn't get a chance to play them last year as a Colt. So this is his first revenge game against the team that drafted him and that he technically won the Super Bowl with. So that's going to be a really interesting dynamic in itself. Even though he got a little taste of it by going against Doug Peterson, his head coach, while he was in Philadelphia when we played the Jaguars week 1. And he won that game, so we'll see how that goes. So we'll see if that has anything to do with this game at all. But of course, with a Street Scores game preview that I do every week, we're going to break down 5 important matchups, 3 X factors, and then 1 score prediction. And I'm very honest, I'm very objective with my score predictions. I'm not predicting us to go 17-0. But I'm also not going to predict us to go 0-17. Entering the season, I saw us going 11-6. After the loss to the Lions, may change it to like 10-7 because that was one of the wins I counted. But I still see us going to the playoffs. And also, of course, along with these game previews every week for the upcoming opponent, I also live stream during the games. So make sure y'all pull up to watch me break down the game and analyze everything as the game is happening. Of course, we have the post-game live streams as well. And then throughout the week, I do game reviews. I give y'all the Pro Football Focus grades of all the players and advanced statistics and film sessions and things like that. So man, this is kind of like the start of the week for real. Thursday is technically the start of the next football week for real. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up every Friday for the Broadcast Podcast, where we talk about everything funny going on, sports, music, gaming, anime, whatever. And then also make sure you pull up every Sunday for the During the Game live streams, where I break down everything going down live in every game, including this upcoming Eagles game. And then also make sure you pull up for the post-game live streams afterwards, or they'll probably be on Mondays for the most part. But without further ado, let's get it. All right, so we're starting with 5 matchups. The first matchup is the Washington receivers versus this Eagles secondary. They got to get open early and often. Wentz will need it for sure, especially with as bad as our O-line was against the Lions, and it's not going to necessarily get any better against the Eagles. Scott Turner needs to literally take what he did in that second half of the last game against the Lions and do that in the entire 4 quarters against the Eagles. Jumping out to a nice lead against them would help us a lot because this team is really good, period. They're one of the best teams in the NFL, it looks like, but they're definitely better at running the ball than passing the ball. So if we can jump out to like an early lead and get them to throw the ball more, that's our best chance right there. While their balance is going to be really ugly for our defense, I'm not going to lie, but getting them to play a little bit of catch up, that kind of places the ball in our court a little bit. Even then, that's not like a big advantage, but that's one of our ways that we could potentially win this game. Also, even though the Eagles secondary is easily better than the Lions secondary, especially the one that had injuries throughout it last week, I still feel like we have the weapons to win the matchup overall. But talent on paper is not enough. Turner has to call the right plays, and these receivers need to actually be as elite as I think they should be, and also like many national media people believe that they can be. Matchup number 2, Washington's front 7 versus this Eagles run game. And this is probably like our biggest disadvantage right here. If we can at least neutralize this, not even win the matchup, we can just end up dead even here and keep them under 130 rushing yards, that's kind of a positive for us, with us so far looking like one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, and they look like one of the best, if not the best, run offense in the NFL. Of course, this is self-explanatory. We're not winning this game if we continue to be the worst run defense in the NFL. I mean, we're out here allowing over 150 rushing yards per game, and luckily that's not the worst in the NFL, but it is bottom 5. And obviously this front 7 has to find a way to contain Jalen Hurts, so that's going to be Cole Holcomb and Jamin Davis out in space one-on-one with Jalen Hurts at times, and that just does not sound like a good matchup. But I'm pretty sure the Eagles are gonna find a way to create that mismatch, and they're gonna have to be ready to make some open field tackles. I mean, this Eagles run game is very potent, and it's not just because of the running backs. Jalen Hurts obviously is one of the reasons their run attack is so deadly. So we got to figure out a way to contain him. I mean, QB contain has to be there. We need QB spies. I say blitz him. I say put some pressure on him and do what we got to do, man, because he's going to run, he's going to scramble, and we cannot allow him to do it too much. He's going to do it some. He's already too talented enough. This Eagles offense is already refined enough to where they're going to find a way to get him out in winnable matchups at times in the game, but we can't allow it to be the majority of the game. Again, if we could at least just fall dead even as far as our front seven versus their run game, that's a win for us. And then matchup number 3, this Washington secondary with the returning Cameron Curl versus this Eagles crazy talented two-headed monster in Devonta Smith and AJ Brown, man. I mean, first of all, two receivers don't get any different from each other. Devonta Smith, one of the fastest, speediest, shiftiest, most agile receivers doing it, and then AJ Brown, the big, strong one that can run people over, make all of the contested catches. And I feel like both of those guys can kind of do a little bit of what each other do, but that's those guys' expertise right there. Those are their strengths, and so we gotta be ready, man. Now, even though Jalen Hurts is definitely improving as a passer and looks pretty good so far this season in 2 games, he's still a better rusher than a passer. Definitely more worried about his legs and his arm right now. So if we could take away his top 2 targets and force him to play like a pocket quarterback to some extent and force him to be accurate, to make quick reads and all of that type of stuff, there's a good chance we can win this game. But it's way easier said than done, man. I mean, just alone trying to contain Devonta Smith and AJ Brown, then again, like I already previously spoke about, trying to contain Jalen Hurts and his legs and his running ability, trying to stop all of that at once, definitely a tough task. I mean, the way we looked against the Detroit Lions doesn't make me very optimistic about the fact that we may have a chance to be able to stop the Eagles. But we'll see. Who knows, man? It's a different week. Maybe we come in with a better game plan. We'll see. But you gotta take away Devonta Smith and AJ Brown out of this game. You gotta take them away. If you don't, it's gonna be way too easy for the Eagles. Then number 4, Washington's run game and Scott Turner versus the Eagles front 7. Time to get at least some sort of a run game going in 2022. Not only have we been terrible stopping the run, but we've also been bad at running the ball. We've been one of the worst in the NFL in both categories on both sides of the ball. And there's blame to go around everywhere, honestly. The running backs without Brian Robinson, the O-line getting obliterated by the Lions, Scott Turner. There's a lot of blame to go around, but they all need to be better if we have any hope of beating the Eagles this upcoming game. Now, it is a divisional matchup, so I don't think it's just going to be this crazy blowout that a lot of people think it's going to be. But still, man, if we're going to start anywhere, we got to run the ball. We have to get the run game going. Now, honestly, we're going to win this game and probably the vast majority of games while Carson Wentz is our quarterback with Carson Wentz's arm. We are a passing team. We've already seen this. We have an explosive offense, which I plan on doing a video on how we are one of the best potential and most explosive offenses in the NFL. But literally our team wins and loses on Carson Wentz's arm. But we still need to be able to run the ball to at least pose some sort of a threat. We need some sort of a run game to at least open things up for Carson Wentz and make his job just a little bit easier. So we got to run the ball, even though that's not how we're going to beat the Eagles. We're not just going to go run for run. They're going to run the ball. We're going to throw it. And then the 5th matchup, our coaches versus their coaches. Like, very obviously, I know this is technically a matchup every game, but I'm emphasizing this week in particular versus other weeks, but just because it's super important in this game. I mean, touched on this briefly in other matchups about how coaching matters a little bit, but this may honestly be the most important matchup in this game. Even after the way we lost to the Lions, I still don't think they are better than us on paper, especially talent-wise, especially with the injuries they had when we played them. We just got severely outcoached and outplayed, and I feel like a lot of that outplayed part has to do with their coaches having their guys more prepared to play for that game. I feel like us getting outplayed like that was our coaches not having our players properly prepared for the game and what the Lions planned on doing. And it seemed like in that game, they did what we expected them to do. Even just me as a Commanders fan and analyst, I could have told you what the Lions were going to do because they did it the previous week on defense and offense. And we still found a way, with their game plan being as obvious as it was, to still lose that game the way that we did too. So again, we got outcoached and we also got outplayed, and a lot of that is on the players, but I also feel like coaching plays a large part in the fact that we got outplayed because I feel like they didn't have our guys as prepared as the Lions coaches had their guys prepared. And with that being said, with us, in my opinion, being the better team on paper over the Lions and still getting whooped like that, it is imperative that we outcoached the Eagles because I feel like they're better than us on paper. We lost last week to a team that I felt like we were more talented than. So how can we have a chance against a team that is more talented than us? What's the only way that we can make up that difference? And that's coaching. So we gotta like outcoach them this game. I mean, most games in just the NFL period, you need to win by coaching, but a lot of the times you can kind of get away with it by being the better team. We're clearly not the better team this upcoming game, so the coaches got to step up. Again, divisional games get weird, but it's still time to step up. Now for the 3 X factors. Number 1, Wentz, man. Carson Wentz has to not overreact to the fact that this is his first time playing the Eagles since he was traded out of Philly. Don't force too many things. Don't take too many sacks trying to make something out of nothing. Don't turn the ball over trying to make a play when there isn't a play to be made. Just chill out, play your game. You have played like a top 8 quarterback, honestly, for the most part so far this season. I mean, he's had a couple of interceptions. I believe 3, 2 in the first game, 1 in the second. But if you just continue doing what you've done well, you could honestly will this team to win this game. I mean, to me, you're a better quarterback overall. You're definitely a better thrower than Jalen Hurts. And so if we can play to that strong suit, and if you can be consistent and explosive with the weapons that you have, you may be able to carry this team into a win against, again, a more talented team overall. This is your revenge game. Time to make a moment of it. But again, back to my main part of the X factor, chill out, take it easy, do what you do, don't force things. Even though some people will argue that is what he does, force things. And he's done that a little bit so far this NFL season already. But again, statistically in a lot of categories, and I'm going to talk about this in my Why the Washington Commanders has one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL video. But a lot of advanced statistics say that he is playing like a top 8 quarterback at the very least. And he's top 3 and number 1 in other categories as well. X factor number 2. Can we actually scheme up a game plan that attacks the weaknesses of our opponent and shuts down the strengths of our opponent? The Lions had nothing for our quick passing game and no intentions of preparing for it at all. I mean, they left things wide open for us if we wanted it. They just constantly blitzed. They man covered most of the game, and we just didn't take advantage of that by involving a quick passing game until the second half. We kept trying to do these long developing plays with play action and trying to attack deep down the field. No, they're blitzing. They're sending like 6, 7, 8 most of the time. Why are we sitting here trying to do these 8-second plays when Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, and Curtis Samuel should be able to get open against anybody in that secondary one-on-one within less than 3 seconds? And then same thing for the defense, man. The Lions also clearly wanted to get the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift. And what did we do? Let them do it easily. So there's no excuses for that, man. Can we actually scheme up a game plan, Scott Turner, Jack Del Rio, and Ron Rivera, to attack the Eagles' weaknesses and to take away their strengths? Can we please at least try to do that? Because it looked like in that first quarter we didn't try to do that on either side of the ball, and then Scott Turner finally started to figure something out the second half, but that was too little too late. And then the last X factor, and I'm gonna do this every week like I spoke about last week, in comparison to our last opponent, just gonna compare our future opponent to our previous one. They have a better defense on paper, but the Lions' aggressive defensive play style with all of the blitzing may just be a big mismatch for us. At least it seemed like it with the way Scott Turner was calling the game. Eagles' offense is definitely better, and we've had a problem with mobile quarterbacks for years now, and we let Jared Goff have one of his best games of his career last week. So definitely a scary matchup for us overall because, again, the Eagles' defense is better on paper, but again, maybe the Lions' aggressive play style is a bigger mismatch against us than how the Eagles play with a fairly simple defense, even though it is more talented. And then overall, just offense-wise, the Eagles are just better than the Lions. So in comparison to our previous opponent, this is definitely ugly for us. They are for sure the better overall team than our previous opponent. And then my final score prediction, I have us losing 28-31 until we at least attempt the field goal. Let me go ahead and get this out the way. Until we attempt the field goal this season, I'm not predicting scores with field goals involved in our scores anymore, ever. We have yet to even attempt the field goal this season so far. It's only been 2 games, but still. Joey Sly also missed that easy extra point against the Lions. So what faith should I have in him making a field goal if he's missing extra points offense anyway, so I'm not predicting us any field goal points in my score predictions until we start kicking some field goals. So I have us losing 28-31, because plus we seem to score touchdowns once we're even relatively close to the red zone anyway. But I also think the Eagles rushing attack will just be too much for this defense. I mean, again, I presented ways that we can stop it, but I just don't know if we have the manpower or the coaching acumen to be able to do so. I mean, this linebacker core, man, they've been one of our more exposed positions so far this season, and this matchup isn't any better for them at all, isn't any easier at all. I think we actually have the talent to play pretty well on defense this season, but maybe the second time we play the Eagles will be ready, but I just don't see us being able to make all of those changes and fix all of the problems that we had last week within just 7 days. Maybe later on in the season when we play the Eagles, we'll be ready, and by then our defense will be in full motion. Maybe it's like a second half of the season type of thing again, just like it's been for Jack Del Rio outside of that first year. But we'll see, man. I'm definitely afraid of our defense in this matchup. And then our offense, again, I'm working on a video about it. I think our offense is explosive enough to make every game interesting. Doesn't matter the opponent, the Packers, Chiefs, the Bills. I mean, a lot of these teams we're not playing this season, but I'm just saying, some of the best teams out there in the NFL, I think we can hang with a lot of them just because we have a very explosive offense potentially. Not a large sample size yet, but I've seen enough to know that we have the makings of an explosive offense that can keep us in every game. At the very least, make interesting comebacks like we did against the Lions. If our defense just makes one critical stop, we tie that game up potentially and maybe even win it. But one of my biggest worries about this offense is that I can see the Eagles getting an early lead because our defense just allows them to be a balanced running attack with a passing game added to it, and then now we're out here trying to explode for points on offense, but we just completely disregard the run game. We completely abandon it, and we end up scoring a lot of points, but at the same time the Eagles end up scoring a lot of points. So that's why I predict us losing 28-31, even though some analysts are probably predicting this to either be a blowout or a relatively low scoring game. But I think our offense is too explosive, but I'm also very worried about our defense finding a way to stop this Eagles offense that so far no other team has been able to find a way to stop. I mean, the Vikings got killed. The Lions that just beat us got killed by the Eagles. So there's a direct comparison right there. The Lions team that just embarrassed us, especially in that first half, got embarrassed by the Eagles in the first half of their game. So there's levels to this, but I'm really hoping that we step up big time. And again, I feel like coaching is going to be a big part of this, limiting turnovers. And we just got to depend on Carson Wentz, man. The only true way I see us winning this game is Carson Wentz balling out. And so far through the first 2 games, outside of a couple of interceptions, he has balled out. Again, he's played like a top 8 quarterback statistically in a lot of categories, even top 5, top 3, and number 1 in some categories. So if he can continue to do that, but even better and more consistent and not force things, we have a chance, but it's definitely ugly. And again, I'm going to be completely objective when it comes to my score predictions. So I predict us losing, but I don't see it being this blowout that a lot of people think. Now, maybe we're down 2+ scores at some point in the game, but again, our offense is too explosive to just not put up a bunch of points before the game ends in a comeback effort. But again, hopefully we gain an early lead and force them to pass the ball, and that's the way we can win this game. We got to take away Jalen Hurts' rushing ability, take away his top 2 targets in A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Again, way easier said than done, but that's the key to victory right there. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. What is your prediction for this game? Do you agree or disagree with any of my points? And as always, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now. Make sure you pull up on Sunday for the During the Game live stream, where I'll be breaking down everything that's going on live while we're watching the game together. And without further ado, catch y'all later. I'm out.